Us donem la benvinguda a Palau Macaya. De seguida començarà l'activitat. Si us plau, comproveu que teniu els telèfons mòbils apagats. Moltes gràcies. Les damos la bienvenida a Palau Macaya. En breves momentos comenzará la actividad. Por favor, compruebe que sus teléfonos móviles están apagados. Muchas gracias.
Molt benvinguts. Aquest és el quart diàleg de la quarta edició del cicle de conferències MedDialogues Plus 2030. Molt agraïts que estigueu aquí, més que res perquè realment estem envoltats, ara no us dona aquesta sensació, que estem envoltats de notícies negatives, cada cop més impactes més grans sobre el que envolta la crisi climàtica, la conservació dels oceans, la seva contaminació, fenòmens com aquest d'Anna, fenòmens extrems motivats també per l'escalfament de l'oceà i de la Mediterrània, en aquest cas concretament, i per això necessitem veus inspiradores. Estem enmig d'una crisi climàtica, d'una crisi ecològica, i és per això que hem convidat aquest gran home que tinc aquí al meu cantó, que després us presentaré, perquè ell és una d'aquestes veus inspiradores que ens fan tanta falta i que ens mobilitzin cap a l'acció i no cap a la inacció, que potser és el que primer ens impacta quan veiem tota aquesta negativitat i tot el que representa aquest creixement tan ràpid de la crisi climàtica i de la crisi ecològica, perquè per mi és més una crisi ecològica que climàtica. Vaig a començar donant dades i diràs, vaya esperança que ens dones si tot són dades negatives, però precisament perquè és el repte tan gran que li proposaré al nostre entrevistat avui, que és revertir aquestes dades de la desesperança. Sabem tots ja que els oceans ens donen la vida, no només la marina, sinó de tots els ecosistemes. Ens donen aliments, ens donen altres elements bàsics com, per exemple, medicaments. També estan controlant el clima, absorbeixen la major part de les emissions de gasos d'efecte hivernacle que nosaltres mateixos emetem, són la font de l'existència de milions i milions d'éssers humans a tot el món, no només d'espècies. I tot i així, seguim contaminant-lo, seguim maltractant-lo, per exemple, amb moltíssim trànsit marítim, seguim escalfant-lo, en fi, que sembla mentida que encara no ens n'haguem adonat. I, malgrat això, aquesta és la següent dada, i direu, la protecció està demostrada que funciona. De fet, tenim moltíssims exemples de que els oceans i els mars es recuperen d'una manera molt més ràpida que, per exemple, altres espais terrestres que també es protegeixen. Tenim moltíssims exemples, el més proper aquí a les Illes Balears, com de ràpidament es pot recuperar un ecosistema un cop es protegeix. Per exemple, a la cimera de biodiversitat del Canadà ara fa 2 anys es va establir, es va signar que s'havia de protegir el 30% abans del 2030 dels oceans, també de les parts terrestres, però sobretot també de manera especial dels oceans. Creieu que hi arribarem a temps? Jo veig una fita molt difícil, queden molts pocs anys, però jo crec que en Zafer ens donarà esperances i ens explicarà com aconseguir-ho, perquè ell en part ho està aconseguint, ho va aconseguir. Si us dono les dades actuals, està clar que cal aquesta protecció. Per exemple, només el 8% dels mars i oceans de tot el món, una part petitíssima, està parcialment protegida. Totalment, el 3%. Què vol dir parcial i total? Hi ha diferents graus, però us ho vaig a resumir per no allargar-me. Per exemple, si permeten activitats, tot i estar protegit, com la pesca. Hi ha altres amenaces, com el trànsit marítim i, per exemple, els sorolls que provoca, no sé, en els cetacis, que els impossibiliten la vida i els provoquen, per exemple, accidents i moltes vegades la mort. Si parlem del Mediterrani, aquest mar nostre que s'està escalfant a una velocitat brutal, només té el 0,04% protegit totalment, el 8,3% parcialment. Així que ara, sense més dilació, crec que ja ens fa falta aquesta veu d'esperança. Gràcies, Zafer. A veure si pronuncio bé el teu cognom. Kızılkaya. Ho he fet bé? En Zafer és president i fundador del Mediterranean Conservation Society a Turquia i el que volem, Zafer, és que ens inspiris amb exemples com el teu, exemples d'acció. Ell és considerat un gran conservacionista marí, segur que esteu aquí perquè el coneixeu, però us en faig un resum del seu currículum. Fotògraf submarí, també ha desplegat molts esforços increïbles per crear i ampliar amb èxit àrees marines protegides efectives a l'est del Mediterrani. El 2012 va fundar la Mediterranean Conservation Society, que va construir i va supervisar la primera àrea marina protegida de Turquia, gestionada per la comunitat. Avui són l'exemple que es pot tornar a l'equilibri un ecosistema marí protegint-lo. En Zafer també va ajudar a reduir el nombre d'espècies invasores, un greu problema, també aquí a casa nostra, a prop de Catalunya, a la costa, animant els pescadors locals, atenció perquè aquesta idea m'ha semblat molt original i molt fàcil de reproduir, per exemple aquí, animant els pescadors locals a capturar-les i als xefs gastronòmics locals a incloure'ls als menús dels seus restaurants. Després ens expliques com ha progressat això, quins plats prepareu i quines són aquestes espècies exòtiques. En reconeixement al seu lideratge se li va concedir el Premi Goldman Environmental 2023. Zafer, no m'estenc més, ets un apassionat del mar i m'agradaria saber d'on ve aquesta passió, una passió tan gran que t'ha portat a lluitar, que no és una feina fàcil, per protegir-lo. D'on et prové? Et ve de petit o et ve de més gran sent fotògraf?
Thank you for your invitation, Senator, and thank you for your question. I think this is not from childhood, this is genetic, because I was born and grown up in the middle of Anatolia, right? So far from the sea. Only in the summertime I had time, chance to go to the seaside, to my grandparents' house, or to the Mediterranean. But this is definitely genetic. I noticed this after all those years. I went to Indonesia. I lived there 10 years and worked there during that period. And when I was looking at all the fishes, one small fish, when I was watching all the schools of this small fish, that's a blue damsel, Chromis viridis, that was a kind of deja vu. I thought I was one of those small fishes once upon a time. I don't know when, because when I was swimming with them, I remember the sheen, I remember the feeling that they're feeling. It's not a kind of beautiful fish, it's a tiny fish, it's not a kind of beautiful, colorful fish, but I felt that, okay, maybe once upon a time, I was a small fish in the ocean. And that's the kind of message brought all the way from Turkey to Indonesia to live there with this fish to protect those areas. This is how I started. And my parents didn't let me become a biologist, right? And when I told them that I will like to study biology, they look at me, what the hell does a biologist do, right? So to make them happy, I became an engineer. But I promised myself when I was studying engineering, I am not going to do anything else rather than marine conservation. So I kept my promise. I never worked anything else in my life. As soon as I graduated, I went to Indonesia, I started working there, I became the photographer, I worked for National Geographic more than 7 years as a researcher. But that small fish kept me there. And this is not a kind of passion, this should be definitely genetic. And then I noticed that Mediterranean, we neglected Mediterranean. I noticed that years later. Name of the Mediterranean, it comes from Mare Mediterraneum, the sea between the lands. It's only 1% of the whole world ocean. So why do we need to protect it? Just 1%. But more than 18% of the whole marine biodiversity lives in Mediterranean. So we cannot neglect it. Besides, this is Mare Nostrum, this is our sea. More important than all the civilizations, the reason we are here today is just because Mediterranean. Because the conditions were so perfect for humanity. The sea, the climate, the resource, the food. Why didn't any other civilizations emerge and survive till today rather than our one that we built up in Mediterranean from our ancestors? But when I came back, actually this is one of the pictures from our MPA. This is the ancient city Knidos. All the breakwaters you see in the pictures are from 2,000 years old. And the lighthouse is the border of Mediterranean and Aegean Sea. So this is the only ancient city in the history. opening 2 harbors, one to Aegean Sea on the north, and one south is the opening to Mediterranean. But one thing is so important about this ancient city. The first naked woman statue ever built in human history by famous, sculptor Praxiteles, standing over on this cliff more than 600 years. She was the protector of all sailors, all fishers, all seamen, and all other marine creatures. And in the ancient times, there were so many replicas of those naked Aphrodite was built, not totally naked, but with different, genes. But that one was missing, but that's the heart of Mediterranean. And everybody was asking me, why did you come back from Indonesia? This is the, heart of marine biodiversity. It's the real paradise. If you really have a kind of love affair with the ocean, this is the only place you can be. But there was a reason. The reason was a girl. Could you switch to the second picture? So this is my girl. And I was in Turkey in 2006 to visit my family from Indonesia, and they called me, we found a stranded monk seal pup. She was only this big, maybe a couple of weeks old. She lost her mother, and all of a sudden, I noticed that she's female. She has a big responsibility for her kin and for her species. And I decided to take care of her, and I raised some money. I built a rehabilitation center. I invited experts from Holland. And 6 months later, of course, during that period, 6 times a day, I was feeding her. She was getting bigger, and then I started to catch her, Leo octopus, fish, and everything. I taught everything to her, right? How to become a monk seal. But since we were so close, she taught herself as a human being, or I thought I was a seal. And then when I was looking for a place to release her, Gökova Bay was a special environment protection area, but just for the beauty of the coast, because nothing is allowed on the land. It's a beautiful scenic cliffs and coasts. There is no settlements. I thought that the marine environment is also beautiful, so let's release her there. So we released her with a big ceremony, small group of people, and I went back to Indonesia, to West Papua. So 2 weeks later, they called me from my satellite phone, hey, your girl is playing with kids in the school garden, I think you should come back. So I decided to come back to take care of her. So I built a big holding pen for her in the summertime to keep her away from people. And in the meantime, I decided to do some diving. And I noticed that there is something really wrong. So can you go to the next picture, 3?
Saps que tenim una cosa en comú, Zafer? Tenim una cosa en comú, et deia. Primera, que jo també volia ser biòloga, però no vaig poder ser biòloga. I segona cosa, jo no em vaig poder fer amiga ni adoptar una foca monjo, però sí que aquí al Cap de Creus, no sé si coneixes que, no sé si crec que va ser als anys 50 o 60, es van extingir també les foques monjo, no sé si creus que també es podrien tornar a tenir aquí o no, a recuperar com a espècie, o és molt difícil.
Actually, this question was asked me 2 weeks ago in Mallorca from different group with an interview. I said that it is not impossible, but very close to impossible. Because monk seals hate from noise and boat traffic a lot. So because one of the town I was living when I was taking care of her name is Focae, means seal. So it was very famous habitat for monk seals, but within 10 years, there's so many boats came there, they just left. So they don't like the traffic, they don't like too many humans around. So their range is 200 kilometers in a day. Even if you bring 10 seals and just live in the Mallorca or the Balearic Islands or Cap de Creus, they just disappear within a week. So that should be really intact habitat. Cap de Creus is more, wild, but the range is not that, the area is not big enough. Because in Eastern Mediterranean, look at the map, So they can go from place to place, from Turkey to Greek islands in the bigger map. So this is a kind of really healthy place for them. There are a lot of islands that they can hide. There are caves that they can hide. So in the map, you can see Gökova Bay. This is the MPA that I released her. And can we go to the next, number 4? So when I dived in Gökova, I noticed that, forget about the fish, there is even no algae left, as if there is a nuclear war happened underwater and nothing left, no life. And I called my friends from CSIC, Spanish Science Council. We have been working in different projects, and Enrique Sala he's a very good friend of mine. We work in the presidency's program for National Geographic together. So we started a project all the way from Spain to Turkey to check the health status of Mediterranean rocky reefs. Any place in the world, if you go to any rocky reef to understand whether this place is healthy or not, all you need to do is just count fish, and the amount of fish per gram per square meter gives you whether this habitat is healthy or not. So look at the bar, the graph. The black stars are well-enforced no-take reserves. The first 2 of them are from Spain. The third one is Portofino from Italy. So the fish biomass is almost 100 grams per square meter in well-enforced and protected areas in Mediterranean. And look at the red stars. They're also MPAs, but they are just paper parks, no management, no enforcement, nothing. There is no difference between the MPAs without any enforcement and in ordinary places. But look at the Gökova. All the way on the right side of the graph, Gökova in 2008 had the least fish in entire Mediterranean with only 4 grams per square meter. It couldn't be worse than that. And at the same year, the fisheries in the bay collapsed. Small-scale fishers lost more than 60% of their income. So that was a kind of a sign for me, okay, let's start from the scratch. So, next slide, please. So what we would like to do, look at the picture. It's past is all big fishes, small fishes, healthy habitats, and look at the present. Present, we don't have anything, just a couple of small fish. This is exactly what is happening in Mediterranean. If we fully protect the sea from that situation, that case, we can bring back to the life. If we highly protect it, still good, but missing some big species and fishing. Lightly protected, we only have some small fish. Minimally protected, we have only a couple of fish. When you were telling only 0.04% of the Mediterranean is protected, this is the fully protected areas, only 0.04%. The rest is 99.99% of the whole marine protected areas in Mediterranean are just paper parks, are just established to make ourselves happy. We are sitting in our chairs, offices, telling that, okay, today is 10% of Mediterranean is protected, let's cheers. That's it so far. So I decided it's not going to be the same thing in my case. Next slide, please.
De fet, aquí al Mediterrani, Zafer, aquí al Mediterrani i a la costa catalana teníem grans taurons, com per exemple el tauró blanc, encara que molta gent ho desconegui perquè fa tantes dècades que van desaparèixer, ara només ens queden alguna espècie de petit tauró que malauradament a més són molt escassos, estan en perill d'extinció. No sé si tu creus que algun dia podem tenir un altre cop grans taurons aquí, que curiosament, i crec que per això ens fa falta molta divulgació, molta gent pot veure com a negatiu, i és tot el contrari, és el que et demostra que és un ecosistema sa.
Thank you for that question. I'm going to show, a little further. Gökova is the only MPA all year round. We have unbelievable population of sharks that you can swim with. So this is possible. The reason I am here today to show you this is possible. This is not a rocket science. This is not a miracle. Just protect somewhere with really big ambitions, with really good organization and people supporting you, and that's possible. So when everything was collapsed, fisheries collapsed, no endangered species, there was only one monk seal in the bay, probably my one. And then I decided to change the tide. We have to establish fully protected areas. I talk every single fishing community member one by one, which is more than 200 fishers. But interestingly, half of the community in Gökova are women fishers. They're all professionals. They work more than 300 days in a year. Some of them work with their husbands. Some of them already lost their husbands, still working alone. Some of them never get married, but still tough fishers. But I noticed that working with fisherwomen is much easier than working with fishermen. So getting their support is more valuable than getting the men's support. Do you know why? Because women listen to you, men never. So when I gather them in a audience like this, keeping their husband out, when I'm telling them why the ecosystem has collapsed, how we can bring it back, what do we need, how they can support, how we can support them, so they understand you and they support you. When you tell the same thing to men, they never listen. So that's the problem, we have been facing all around the Mediterranean. Fishermen never listen. So after getting the support of women, right, and all those negotiations over a year, next slide, please. Okay, these green areas are the fully protected areas we established in 2010. These dashed areas are no perseining and no trawling area, which was the largest in European Union ever established. Because when I was telling them I'm going to close some areas for fishing, I'm also going to close almost half of the bay for industrial fishers. So this is only going to be your fishing ground. And then we did it. But who is going to protect it? Is it going to be another paper park? I went to the Coast Guard, and those were the year 2010, is the heydays of Syrian refugees trying to flee from Turkey to Greek islands. So they have been drowning in the sea in hundreds, sometimes thousands, and Coast Guard was fully busy with saving the lives of the refugees. And they told me, no way we can ever come and protect your MPA because we're so busy with saving lives, which they're right. And there was a big unrest among the community. Okay, there's so many illegal fishers still going into the protected areas. We are not going, but there's so many people still going and fishing there. So I decided to establish our own marine ranger system using the fishing community. So I went to the minister. I told him the situation and we need to protect the area. And I said that we can establish our own marine ranger program. And he looked at me, listen, government never ever outsource security forces, security job to third parties. You cannot do it legitimately. I said that I'm not asking any legitimacy. It is my constitutional right as a citizen trying to stop any crime and report it to the security forces. All you have in EU and all the other, people in the world have the constitutional right of stopping crime. This is your constitutional right. And he looked at me, wow, he said, go ahead then. And next slide, please.
Clar, vas aconseguir aquest revés, que ja és un pas. Jo crec que potser podia ser un obstacle i el vas superar, no? Potser el més gran obstacle. Encara que et digues que no, però vas arribar-hi, que ja és un què, no?
Actually, I visited him in Ankara. He didn't come to see it because everything in Turkey was so centralized in Ankara. Even the Minister of Environment never been in Gökova before, right? So I established the ranger system. I have chosen the rangers from ex-fishers who would like to quit fishing, become a ranger. Because they know all the illegal fishing source, people who is doing illegal activities. Then I went to Coast Guard, okay, this is our system. And they asked me, who will be the rangers? I said, ex-fishers. How do you trust them? You know? I said, believe me, we will trust them and they will support us. And the system started working. Our rangers were shot. Seriously. Luckily, no one died. Our rangers were beaten because this is a big mafia job, illegal fishing, right? But luckily, whatever happens, as soon as they call Coast Guard always comes. So there's a great cooperation between our rangers and the Coast Guard, and within 3 years, system settled so well, Coast Guard started to outsource other activities to our rangers. Next slide, please. But we had so many incidences. We developed a software, this is called Smart Marine Gyokowa. This is the first marine smart software in the world. At any given time, when I open my laptop, our rangers have special phones with a special software. I can see where they are, their route, and what happened, every incidences they have been living. And I can get graphics of illegal fishing activities in different parts of the bay from their data. And I can also share this with our donors because my fuel cost annually is more than 150,000 euros. So I have to prove that I spend this fuel for ranger boats, for those activities. These are the results. 3 years ago, I have that many illegal activities from professional to amateur. In their phones, in the menu, there are all kinds of activities they face with. Professional, amateur, type of fishing gear, whether they confiscated or not, everything. So I can get so much detailed, statistics, which I can share with my donors. Next slide, please. Then later, I noticed that having a woman ranger has more advantages than having men. Because when women rangers go and face with illegal fishers, they got shocked. A woman is coming and warning them and telling them something, you are just breaking this law and we are going to fine you. They get panicked. When man goes and tells something like this, they have a kind of defensive behavior. But when women goes and tells them, hey, you are doing something wrong and I'm going to report you to the Coast Guard, they get panicked. It's unbelievable. So now we have 2 tough cookies as rangers. So we have a kind of gender balance in our ranger program. Now we are recruiting more rangers. Next slide, please. In the meantime, you're going to have questions that you want to?
A lot.
Okay.
No, però no em deixes.
Yeah.
Mira, tenia una que crec que ja l'has contestat una mica, que és com has anat superant tots aquests impediments que t'has anat trobant, no? Ens n'has explicat un que és bastant greu, que és aquesta màfia de la pesca il·legal que fins i tot posava en risc la gent que donava suport, no, a aquesta protecció. A part d'aquest, quins són els grans entrebancs que t'has trobat, les amenaces més grans per poder aconseguir protegir el que tu volies i com ho has superat?
Yeah, sorry. That's the most important thing. It took a lot of time to convince fishers on my side. So when the areas were established, closed for fishing, fishers were looking for me in the dark evening to beat me somewhere, right? And especially the purseaners and industrial fishers, they threatened me by that several times. If you, close the bay for us, we are going to kill you. I said, okay, come. Here's my address. If you cannot come, give your address, I'm going to come to you, right? But Coast Guard support was so important. They never left us alone. Whatever happened, they always came. So that's why we had a kind of government and military force behind us. This is the first thing. As the year passes, as we keep protecting the areas, a lot of fish came back. and their catch started to increase, and they noticed that something is going positive. So, but after 10 years, their income is rising like geometrically like that. Right now, every single fisher who trying to beat me at that time, kissing me on the street, you saved our life. So that was the biggest reward. I got all the community behind me and all the other stakeholders because everything is going positive. Still, purseaners and trawlers, we are clashing a lot because we caught them doing illegal fishing in the protected area several times, and we fine them with the very big fines. So I'm still getting death threats from them. But now government awakened, right? Minister of Agriculture noticed that that's a great management tool to save fisheries. So now they're supporting me. So I believe that I think we passed the most difficult part. But other than that, keeping the enforcement, and there's so many other things. For example, this picture. It was 2012. That's the bottom. Millions of kilometers of lost fishing lines. Thousands of fishing nets all covering the reefs. And there is nothing. One by one, we cleaned all these fishing lines in protected areas only.
I com les trobeu, aquestes xarxes fantasma? Perquè, per exemple, vaig conèixer aquí a Catalunya un projecte que les buscava i era com buscar una agulla en un paller, i era impossible. De fet, el que més els hi costava no era retirar-les, sinó trobar-les. I calculen que després d'uns quants anys en poden haver trobat una infinita part de totes les que en realitat hi deu d'haver, no? Com us ho feu per trobar-les?
Your fishing lines are everywhere, as you can see, once you go. But the problem about fishing line, you have to collect them one by one, right? You cannot pull them all. You have to follow one line till to the end. So it takes so much time, but we only did in protected areas, fully protected areas. For fishing nets, we have a team. We just did survey in all the areas. We spotted them. We got the coordinates and how big they are. Next slide, please. And I'm going to tell you, this is probably one of the largest cleaning up operation in whole Mediterranean. It took us a year. 15 tons of discarded nets we saved. Another 5 tons of garbage. It cost us almost $40,000. And we hired a purseaner to lift them up from the bottom. So our team, one by one, tied them and send a buoy to the surface, and then we just put a hook of a purseaner. And ironically, this is the guy I caught in doing illegal fishing, which we hired for, clean up the nets. So it's a very labor-intensive activity, but as soon as we cleaned, next picture, please. Look at that. Before, there is no sponges on the rocks because all covered with the fishing nets. Just in 3 years, the sponges, corallogenous habitats started coming back. And after that protection and cleanup, monk seal numbers increased. So the monk seals are one of the most important conservation programs in Gökova. And it's all protected area, it's cliffs and everything. We thought that there's so many caves. Next slide, please. So one by one, we spotted every possible case with a potential of having seals. In the meantime, could we play the media #1 video before it's too late? Okay, after we cleaned up, you remember the picture with the fishing line and the sponge? This is exactly the same spot 5 years later. When you clean all the fishing lines, sponges starts to grow. Otherwise, they are always being cut by those fishing lines. When you protect the place, then the fish started to came back. So we have monitoring cameras underwater. This is one of the footage I captured from those cameras. Next video, please, Media 2.
En quants anys? En quants anys van passar d'una imatge, de la imatge de brutícia a aquesta imatge de vida una altra vegada?
5 years. So this is, yeah. So this is dusky grouper. Every day she comes in front of the camera, hours and hours and hours looking at the camera. And within the protected areas, we have dusky groupers, because dusky groupers in Turkey endangered and fully protected. Eating, hunting, selling, everything is prohibited. But out of protected areas, I don't see any. Okay, so can you play the number 4? So we set up real-time 4K camera systems inside the caves with the solar panels and waterproof box with the video recorders, computer and everything. This is totally infrared, there is no light. It's like a BBC cameras. So we don't need to go and disturb the seals. Right now we have all 4K cameras in our caves. And when I go to the office in the morning or even in the home, when I open my laptop, I just check my cameras in the caves first, which one has a seal and everything. So right now we have 11 monk seals in Gökova. One by one individually we know, from 1 to 11 in 10 years. And I think it's not here in one shot. We have 7 monk seals in the cave, right? And this is the highest number in any cave in Turkey ever taken with 2 pups. So, number 15, please.
Zafer, clar, aquí una mica veiem la importància de la protecció total envers als altres graus de protecció. Això creus que hagués estat possible sense una protecció total com aquesta?
Well, you can, but the rest of the habitat should be intact too. If you just keep them, we are lucky in Gökova because there is no settlement. There is only one town, and 70 kilometers later, there is only Bodrum. In between, it's just empty. So only fishers can see monk seals. So there is not much threat. But the problem is feeding areas. Once the no fishing zones having more fish, because in 5 years, the amount of fish just goes 100 times more than 4 gram meters square. Now we have more fish than in any protected areas in Spain. So we're competing with you. And Bonifacio, yeah. And it is possible, but what we noticed, there is not too many caves that they can breed. Monk seals needs, as you remember from the previous video, a dry ledge to climb up, to rest, and to deliver a pup. So I found a beautiful cave with a very well protected pool, but there is no dry ledge inside. There is no dry platform. So I decided to build a platform inside. I got a permission from Ministry of Environment. Next slide, please. Remember this picture? So this is the final part. So I built a platform from the rocks and then some cement and sandbags and the gravel. Next slide, please. Just 3 months later, one big male and one juvenile female started to using the cave. Monk seals use the cave only in winter, starting from end of October to the beginning of April. In the summertime, they never use the caves. It's all empty. Only this artificial cave has all year round seals inside. I don't know why. What is the property so important for seals? Because it's new, because it's so tiny compared to the other natural big caves. But all of a sudden, they love this cave And I noticed that we need more caves for like this, because Gökova has a tectonic place, it's a fault line. Very common earthquakes, and there's so many caves already collapsed. So we have a plan to clear and break the entrance of the other beautiful caves to build a platform inside for the seals. So right now, this is our favorite monk seal cave, which is, artificially built a platform. This is the first case in the world.
Ha sigut inspiració. Estàs esperant una pregunta meva. I és que em poso a escoltar-te i llavors se m'oblida que t'he de preguntar coses. Realment, parlàvem al principi de fonts d'inspiració. Tu dius que és la primera, l'única. Per què no s'ha copiat aquest model, si funciona, no? Hauria de ser una font que és d'inspiració per a altres projectes de recuperació de la foca monjo, no? A tot el món.
Well, monk seals right now normally live in between Greek islands and Turkey. There are some natural caves in Greek islands and also in Turkey, but for Gökova caves, I noticed that there is a scarcity of caves for monk seals. As the number increased, and then I decided to build this. This is a kind of experiment. And we made this scientific paper in Oryx magazine of Cambridge University. Yes, definitely we need, as their number increases, because now we have a healthy population, and in all we have 5 caves we have been monitoring with 4K system, and right now we have 19 monk seals, different individuals. But the number of caves are really important. We will do it in Turkey, if I get permission from Minister of Environment again. But for the rest of the Mediterranean, the threat is the human being's presence closer to. Because all my cave, there's a surveillance camera outside to monitoring the human activities. So, because that surveillance cameras really scares people. When they see there's a camera right there, I'm not putting any sign that's a monk seal cave or nothing. There is just surveillance camera on top of the cave. People get panicked. They never get close. They notice that there is something wrong here. Somebody is watching us. Let's get away from here. So that's why, this surveillance cameras out of each cave is just saving the monk seals being disturbed. So there are, we did try and notice there's some, tools to save the monk seals population collapse. But most important thing, April, the pups are separated from their moms. 6 months, the weaning period, then they're alone. Every summer, every April and May, we have at least 4 pups in no fishing zones, exactly in no fishing zones, because they know where the fish are most, abundant. So it's just a very strict sign. Monk seals are coming to feed in no fishing zones. They know that that's a no fishing zone because there are a lot of fish inside. So that's why having protected areas, fully protected areas, also bringing monk seal to feed. That's very important. I never thought that one day monk seals only come for feeding the fully protected areas. So that's why we have to increase closer to each other with ecological connectivity, more, protected areas. Shall we talk about fisheries?
You can. Una de les coses que m'has explicat, de fet, sobre aquest tema que m'ha xocat molt és el fet de que vas començar treballant amb dones pescadores, perquè era més fàcil que amb homes pescadors. Per tant, a mi m'ha fet pensar una cosa, que és que aquí on som a Catalunya, crec que el 98% dels pescadors són homes. Per tant, ho tindríem més difícil aquí per treballar amb ells en zones protegides, perquè hi ha exemples. Per exemple, aquí hi ha una fundació que es diu CRAM, que no sé si coneixeu molts de vosaltres, que treballen amb pescadors, per exemple, per recuperar les tortugues que cauen accidentalment a les seves xarxes. I hi ha una certa col·laboració amb ells. No sé quin percentatge de pescadors col·laboren, però no sé això com ho veuries aquí per seguir una mica els passos de la zona protegida que vas aconseguir tu a Turquia.
Well, it depends on how you approach to them, how, it takes time to get their trust. Right now, every single fisher in Gökova, if they catch any shark species, they take the picture, they're always alive, and we taught them how to release them back to the sea. And they're taking their video, even they're alone, they're releasing the shark back to the sea and sending the picture to us or video to us. It's a kind of time that needs to be having a kind of trust relationship, because they notice that protecting all those protected areas for their benefits. Next slide, please. I'm going to show you why. Okay, since 2013, this is the monthly income per boat in Gökova. Look at the increase. In 2023, it was even 45,000 lira, so it doesn't fit to the graph. I didn't put it here. So it is still increasing. Over 10 years, the income of small-scale fishers in Gökova increasing. So I am not keeping these numbers. They are sending these numbers to us. We have also software in the cooperative. Every single fishers come and they just enter what they brought, which species, with their size. And we are getting this data from them. They are not hiding anything. Look at that. And they are seeing this. So they are making more money than a mayor, right? So that's why they're so happy. That's why they're so cooperative right now. Every single fisher in the bay just reporting any kind of illegal activity, mostly the trawlers, illegal trawlers, because the trawlers are just drooling when they see the amount of fish inside the protected areas. So if our rangers stop going out, even one day, they can come back. So we cannot stop enforcement. Enforcement is the most important thing. This is the most expensive, but the most important thing. Fisherwomen are so happy, and we also have different program for them. Because when we get socioeconomic status of the bay, when we are starting the project in 2009, I know every single fisherman, fisherwoman, their families, how many kids they have, what is the horsepower engine, what type of fishing gear they have at that time. I know all those days, right? And right now, I have again the similar socioeconomic study and their income, how happy they are about their situation, how hopeful they are for the future. Gökova is the only case in entire Turkey, small-scale fishers. They say that the fishing is getting better and better. We are making more money every year. There is no such kind of example in any other parts of Mediterranean. So it's a kind of, you have to start from somewhere. When I started in 2010, right, everything was against me. As the years passes, as the positive things, everyone sees the positive things, from fishers to seals, everything. So now they're on our side. So right now, when I go to another part of Turkey to replicate this project, I'm just taking the fishers with me. I'm not talking like this. I'm just putting the fishers on the stage. Okay, fishers to fishers, tell them. And especially, there was one fisherman, he was so obsessive against the project. He was telling this. I was hating this guy at the beginning. I was the head of the groups against the protected areas. Now it's just saving our life. So that's why it's very important. Next picture, please. So in 2007, the fishery cooperative makes 40% of their income from only single species, white grouper, Ephenephalus ionus. And it dropped to 0. No single specimen in 2008 and 2009. Right now, 52% of the income, those increasing income, is coming from, again, this species. Next slide, please. So this is one of our fisherwomen. Went out fishing with her son. This is the day catch. How couldn't be they happy? So,
Van passar de no pescar
and
res a
good thing
pescar.
is, they don't need to go out fishing every day. They are catching a lot of fish once they go out. So that's why they can, save time for their home, their kids, some other things, activities in the summer, touristic activities. So right now they don't need to go out sea every day because they're making a lot of money out of fishing. Why they need to go every day? So, you know, we touch the life of people, small-scale fishers there, and they notice that. That's why I am taking them to talk with the other fishers in another project.
Però llavors, Zafer, hi ha una cosa que no entenc, que és, si ja no són molts, però hi ha exemples arreu del món d'això mateix que tu estàs explicant, de pescadors que passen de no pescar res perquè ja no queda gairebé res, a que es protegeix la zona i en els voltants comencen a poder pescar i acaben pescant més que abans, evidentment. Per què costa tant protegir zones marines? Per què no n'hi ha més? Per què són tan escasses? Per què les que hi ha, la gran majoria, són parcials i no són eficients, per tant, no? Per exemple, em ve al cap un exemple que hi ha aquí al Mediterrani, que és el corredor de cetacis marí, que és una zona protegida, però jo vaig descobrir un dia que hi havia uns investigadors que estaven mirant com millorar aquella protecció. Jo els vaig dir, millorar, però si està protegida. Sí, però hi poden passar tot tipus de vaixells, estan permeses totes les activitats, i quina protecció és aquesta, no? Evidentment, no s'havia recuperat aquella zona i segueix sent un impediment tot aquest trànsit marí per als cetacis, no? Llavors la pregunta és aquesta, per què no es protegeixen més zones si està demostrat que funciona i són rendibles, ja no diem ecosistèmicament o per la nostra vida, sinó fins i tot econòmicament?
Yeah, that's the most important question, I think, tonight.
Difficult?
No, it's not difficult. It's very easy. Actually, there are two sides. 90% of the fish in the world was caught by industrial fishers, purseaners and trawlers. 10% only caught by these people. 90% of the employment in fisheries in the world are these people. 10% of the employment are industrial fishers. They are getting 90% of the share of the whole fisheries in the world with only 10% employment. These people with 90% of employment power, they get only 10%. This is exactly this. When I am trying to close new areas in Turkey, industrial fishing lobbies are so powerful on the government. They are more stronger than me. So I need more support. I need more audience. Exactly same thing in Spain, France, Italy. These guys have, in EU level, has the highest lobby power than any of us. That's why, if you are talking about protected areas, the first barrier are industrial fishing lobbies all over the world. Not only in Mediterranean case, all over the world. Second thing is, fishers somehow believe that conservationists, we are trying to, prevent them doing something. It's not that. So that's why we need to tell them, right now so many fishers are coming from France, Italy to Turkey to talk with the fishers in Gökova, how the situation has changed. So there needs to be kind of an exchange trips between the fishing communities. They don't believe it. They're so stubborn. They don't want to be intervened. They don't want to be taught anything. They just believe that, if they are catching less fish today, if they increase the amount of fishing gear, just to catch the same amount of fish, more gear, nothing left. Right now, 86% of the whole fish stocks in Mediterranean collapsed. This is the United Nations Food and Agricultural Organization's report. We just collapsed almost 90% of the fish stocks in Mediterranean, and we are still talking about whether protected area is good or not. Come on. There is nothing left.
I hem de sumar també, sumem-li a més una amenaça creixent, que és la mineria marina, que ja seria el súmmum, no, del col·lapse. Et preocupa a tu la mineria marina?
Well, mining is most incredible thing. 10 years ago, I was in the committee of anti-deep ocean mining activities because these rhodolites, what they have been mining, do you know Europenium? The shiny color in Euro banknote, do you know that shiny color? is coming from the element called europium. Almost 90% of the europium is coming from China. But most of the europium is in the deep ocean on the structures which is animal, like a coral, called rhodolites. Rhodolites are at least 10 to 20,000 years old. It's like a black stone at the bottom of the deep ocean. So europium is so expensive. Deep mining ocean, even it is so costly, it is so profitable. But those rhodolites, more than 20,000 years past, they become only this size. And we just scrape them in just an instant. Because it's away from all of our eyes, it's in the middle of the ocean, someone is just scraping the rhodolites at 2,000 meters or 1,000 meters. No one else witnessing that. No one else knows what's the benefits of rhodolites to the ocean ecosystems. Of course, we cannot do anything. First, we have to understand what is this deep bottom oceans ecosystems giving us, giving the nature, and if we disturb it, how consequences will be. We have no idea yet. But we already gave, and the countries already shared the bottom of the ocean. I am going to excavate this, and you are going to excavate that. So we need more people, more audience to stop this. Maybe we stop, what is the minerals coming from bottom ocean? And we have to follow it up transparently, who is getting what mineral from the deep ocean and selling to which industry. We need to protest this, otherwise it's impossible. What about climate change?
Mira, si parlem d'això aquí al Mediterrani, només una xifra que ja és com molt esfereïdora. A mi m'envien cada mes un senyor que hi ha aquí a la costa de Girona que es dedica des de fa moltíssims anys, i gràcies a ell tenim mesures, a mesurar la temperatura cada dia del mar Mediterrani davant de casa seva. Des de l'abril, em falla la memòria, des de l'abril del 2022, cada mes es bat un rècord de temperatura. I crec que de mitjana ja estem, si algú d'aquí sap la xifra exacta i no és aquesta que m'ho digui, en 1,5 graus d'escalfament mitjà a la Mediterrània ja. Clar, no només provoca desnivells als ecosistemes, sinó aquesta dana, per exemple, que ha vingut molt afavorida per aquesta escalfor. Què podem fer-hi, no? A banda de divulgar, de lluitar com fas tu perquè continuem intentant lluitar-hi, però ara hi ha una cimera d'aquí poc a Azerbaidjan que em sembla que no sé si és molt esperançadora, però hi haurem de lluitar perquè ho acabi sent, no? No sé, Zafer, d'on treus tu la inspiració per seguir lluitant, per seguir inspirant-te, per seguir barallant-te amb tantes persones, tants actors per aconseguir fites com aquesta? Perquè la veritat que em meravella, no? Jo et veig com un lluitador, perquè ara aquí estàs molt somrient explicant-nos com t'ha anat de fabulosa aquesta protecció, però segur que no ha sigut un camí de roses, segur que ha tingut moltes punxes. Com ho fas? Quin és el teu secret?
Well, we have so many fronts. Human front and the nature front. So protected areas, what I'm going to show you soon, is a kind of fate is waiting for us in the very near future and how we can cope up with that. Can we go to the number 22, please? By the way, I know this man. I met with him.
Sí?
Once upon a time. Okay.
Però gràcies a ell tenim moltíssimes dades, gràcies a aquest senyor tenim moltíssimes dades que no tindríem. Aquest és un altre exemple que també l'hauríeu de convidar, és un altre apassionat, no? El vas conèixer i quina impressió et va donar? És un home més que té una sabidoria pròpia que s'ha creat ell mateix de l'observació de l'oceà cada dia de la seva vida, no? Com és que el vas conèixer, Zafer, si es pot saber? No sé si estic furgant molt, però...
I think it was 7 or 8 years ago, or maybe more, because we went to MPAs, and then somehow we met with him. He told us the device that he made it, how to measure it. It's crazy. Nobody asked him to do that. And he didn't know even, what's the use of or recording all those temperatures or water levels, whatever, but he did it. And in 2015, we started measuring the temperature in Gökova. We have temperature loggers every 5 meters. I program them in the computer. They synchronizingly measure the temperature every hour. So at the end of the year, I collected it, download it, and check what's happening. So look at the 2015. So between August and September, we have almost 30 degrees down to 20 meters. But there is still the thermocline. There's a line which we call thermocline, where the warm water abruptly changed to the cold water. It goes to the, let's say, 20 degrees. All of a sudden, it goes to the 15 degrees or colder. So this is called thermocline. Check out 2016. Thermocline was at around 22 meters. In 2016, it's around 27 meters. In 2017, it's around 40 meters. So every year, cold water level in Eastern Mediterranean goes almost 5 meters deeper and deeper and deeper. And the last one was from 2023. Look at the 30 degrees gradient. It's almost down to 25 meters. This year we had the highest. It was 31 degrees at the surface, 29 degrees at the 40 meters. I am going to collect the loggers next week. So next slide, please. What's happening when the water is warming?
Deixa'm dir el nom d'aquest senyor, no? Que estem parlant d'ell, pobre. No sé si el coneixeu, és en Josep Pasqual, que ell va cada dia mesurar les temperatures a l'Estartit des de fa, no sé, 50 anys, potser, no, Zafer? Sí, déu-n'hi-do.
Exactly. Yeah.
I no existeix una... Clar, el que fan els científics és calcular amb llistes molt llargues, de períodes molt llargs. Els meteoròlegs també ho fan igual amb la temperatura, i era impensable fa 50 anys que ningú mesurés aquesta temperatura voluntàriament i sense que ningú li demanés, i es té gràcies a ell, són molts 50 anys, gràcies a això tenim aquesta figura lineal de com s'ha anat escalfant. Malauradament, la xifra final és bastant preocupant.
Well, the bad news is all the climate models showing Mediterranean is warming up 4 times faster than the average of the world. So, accept it or not, it's going to be much warmer. We will have more heat waves, more wildfires, and it's going to warm up more and more. Besides, warming up of water temperatures, bringing a lot of invasive species, as Suez Canal is just a big highway from Red Sea, and today there are more than 1,000 species of tropical species came from Red Sea, and I'm going to show you how this is going to change the entire Mediterranean. Mediterranean is turning into a tropical sea. It's a matter of time. Look at the picture. The big picture is what we called coralligenous habitats, where sponges, corals, other invertebrates are living. These are all cold water, 15 degrees, 16 degrees at the warmest. Once the water temperature increases, those ecosystems are shrinking and they're dying and disappearing. But look at the small pictures in the white frame. These are the invasive ones coming from Red Sea. That yellow sponge is tropical, covering all the Mediterranean ones. And you can see these spiny oysters. These oysters are also from Red Sea. They're also covering everywhere. Slowly, slowly in Eastern Mediterranean, we are losing our coralligenous habitats covered with these invasive ones. Next picture, please. And this is the most catastrophic thing. This is a day's catch from another MPA. In this catch, there are 273 fish. Only one is local, Mediterranean, the red scorpion fish. All the rest are just invasive species. Lionfish, soldierfish, pufferfish. So fishers going out fishing, almost 90% of their catch are just invasive species, which is worthless. No one eats them, no one uses them, some of them are toxic. Many small-scale fishers in the eastern part of Turkey, they stop fishing because they can't catch anything, just invasive species. But many of them are eatable. And I gave these sheets to every single fisher, and I am paying, 5 euros for every single paper they bring back to me. How much fish they caught that day, how much is just invasive, and how much is local. So over a year, I capture the big picture, how much of their catch are invasive. And I started a big promotion. It's a big event in Turkey. It's even bigger than marine protected areas. Very famous Michelin star chefs in Turkey are a good friend of mine. I called them, listen, we have so many invasive species, they are all edible. I have an idea. Let's start the program. Can you put these fishes in your menu? They said, okay, send us the sample. I sent them the sample. They developed recipes, and they love the fish, lionfish. They love the lionfish, right? They said that, okay, we can buy lionfish. No problem. So we started buying lionfish from fishers plus other fishes. So next slide, please. And every year, we had a competition in Istanbul among the chefs, which has the best invasive recipe. And right now, we are working with 39 restaurants, buying invasive species from fishers. Mediterranean Conservation Society is the only institution in Turkey buying invasive species from fishers, selling to the restaurants. We are more fishmongers nowadays than conservationists. And this is bringing a lot of income. Look at the amount of lionfish they are catching. Next slide, please. In the last 4 years, we bought more than 17 tons of invasive species from small-scale fishers. We paid them a lot of money, and the price of lionfish is increasing every year. More and more restaurants are calling us. They would like to put their menus too. Now we have 4 different species. Now they are developing new recipes. Next year we will also give more fishes. Otherwise small-scale fishers will collapse in the other areas. Everything they catch is just invasives. And we are bringing an amazing income for them, and also bringing this fish to the seafood industry, and we are extracting them from the ecosystem. There is no way, there is no example of you can extradite any marine invasive species. They have one-way ticket. Once they ended up here, they are here forever. We have to learn how to live with them. Lionfish can live down to 10 degrees of water. It's a matter of time to come to Spain. 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, they will be here. And once you cut their stomach, there's so many juvenile fish, lobsters, shrimp, and everything. Their impact is huge. The only way, extract them, paying the fishers, just increase the awareness on public, because many people in Turkey, when they go to the restaurants, those restaurants, they only go for eating lionfish. See? They would like to be part of the program, supporting the climate change mitigation. So this is the only way we can do. Otherwise, we cannot extract lionfish.
Did you test it?
Yes, always.
Really?
It's better than grouper. That's why restaurants are, because they're Michelin star restaurants, right? And let's say the grouper is 30 euros per kilo they're buying. We are giving the lionfish only for 10 euros. So they're making profit buying this fish, which is the same quality of meat. And right now, big chain markets, supermarkets asking us the fish to sell in their, system, we said that no. So because this is more public awareness, the people are going to the restaurant, tasting it, because these spines are very venomous. There's a health, hazard status. That's why we work with the restaurants right now. Next slide, please. So I'm going to show you one good thing. Okay, so from all the data we have from 2013, biomass of invasive species increasing 2% every year, whatever you do. Every year, if the biomass of fishes, you say 1, within that 1, invasive species proportion is increasing 2% every year. But the good news is, in no fishing zones, in fully protected areas, there are 15% less invasive species than non-protected areas. This means protected areas has more resilience against invasive species. Why? Because we have big groupers, we have big dentecs, they're feeding or they're preying on the invasive species. So to keep the Mediterranean as Mediterranean, we need more protected areas. But according to our analysis, before 2030, 30% of the whole fish species in Eastern Mediterranean will be invasives. So there's no way we can prevent this. The only way we can do is just eating them, all the eatable ones. Media number 5, please. You were talking about sharks, right? Okay.
Sí, perquè és un tema...
Not the picture, video.
Perquè és un tema que necessita molta...
So this is
Zafer,
our...
put on your ear plug, please.
All right.
És un tema bastant polèmic perquè diguéssim que falta moltíssima divulgació per entendre què això significa salut oceànica o marítima, no? Realment costa molt. Aquí quantes vegades heu vist a les notícies, per exemple, no? Que s'ha vist un tauró a la costa i és com una cosa, vist com una cosa negativa, quan ell està en el seu hàbitat. Som nosaltres que no estem en el nostre hàbitat quan ens banyem allà, no? Com podem canviar això? Aquesta manera de veure-ho.
Actually, this is the great example we have done. In our MPA, these sandbar sharks are coming for breeding. They are huge, 3 meters. But they are so shy. If I go by myself to film it, they just swim away. That's why we have the stationary cameras. They are also real time. They have a recorder on the lens and solar panels and everything. So these are 24 hours recording everything. Can you replay the media, please? So in 2010, when we started, we saw 1 or 2 sharks, if we are lucky, because they have been heavily fished out. And then, as the protection increases, in their area, even swimming is not allowed. We don't want anybody to disturb them. Right? So only I can go and check the cameras or do the maintenance. And look at this. This is Mediterranean. This is Eastern Mediterranean. But we developed the things. Media number 6, please. Who is going to watch all this video whole day? Who? Number 6, please. Okay, so we developed an artificial intelligence on our cameras. So right now, our camera is just spotting every single shark, even giving name to them. So when I check the software gives me the number of sharks spotted during the day on Excel sheets. This time of the day, this number shark came in and came out. So now I can tell to my donors, look, we have that many sharks coming every year, and every year it's increasing. Now I can even individually differentiate every single shark from each other. You can replay that, yeah. So this is possible, and I am showing this to the ministry. I am showing this to the public. Look, these sharks are coming here because they were not disturbed. Nobody is coming no noise, no boat, nothing. Even swimming is not allowed. Because, for God's sake, for one species, only small bay that nobody can go, is it that luxuries? Can you imagine? For a fish, there is a concept. The fish can live forever without seeing any fishing line, without seeing any fishing net, without seeing any spearfisher chasing them. There is a life for a fish like this. But it's the only tiny itsy-bitsy parts of the ocean. If we can increase this, sharks will come for sure. Because every May, the baby sharks are coming from their eggs in the deeper waters. And last year, in one of our no-fishing zones, our rangers confiscated a fishing net. They didn't spot it who put them, but they spotted a fishing net. Luckily, I was there. We went to pull the net in no-take zone. 22 juvenile sandbar sharks came out of that. That means juvenile sharks are coming to feed in no fishing zones. They notice that there is a fish inside. So, even if you don't see, I never thought that juvenile sharks are coming to feed in the fully protected areas. Luckily, this guy just put an illegal net, and when we were retrieving it, we noticed that there are baby sharks coming to feed. Even the sharks have noticed that there is something really good here to come and feed, and it is safe. So if we can establish areas like this, after carefully doing the scientific research, they will come to the Spain too, because there is no case for any shark attack in Turkey. I don't believe there is any case of shark attack in Spain. The great white sharks are between Messina Strait in Sicily and around Malta, but not in other parts of Turkey. They're coming to Black Sea, crossing the Dardanelles, crossing the Bosphorus for breeding, because the Black Sea anchovy, when the babies are coming out, actually the great white sharks are giving the live birth. So the juveniles are feeding with the anchovy. And during that period, they don't eat, they just hide. Luckily, actually, unfortunately, purseaners catching them, then we noticed that there are great white sharks coming to Black Sea for breeding. Without noticing, nobody noticed them. They just sneaking to Black Sea without eating anything and coming back. So we need more scientific data to save the sharks. But this is possible. We saved them. They're coming. They're there. And every morning, the first thing I do after I wake up, just turning on this camera. Because, when I check the list, okay, this time of the day, there are sharks passing by, I'm just going to do that footage. That makes me so happy. What is my reward? When I wake up, when I see more sharks there, when I see the monk seals there, when I see that stupid, grouper looking at the camera every morning, that makes me happy. This is my reward. And this is so easy to replicate anywhere else.
Llavors, com veus el futur de la Mediterrània? Com veus el futur d'aquest mar que tenim aquí al davant? El veus tenint més zones protegides com aquesta teva? Jo li dic teva, jo no sé si tu te la consideres teva, però veus un futur esperançador per la Mediterrània?
Well, definitely. Because there are so many organizations, there are so many people, there are so many, marine protected area managers, and now we have a big, voice. We are more closer to the government because there is no place to go. This is not sustainable. Unsustainability is not sustainable. So it doesn't go like that. And one thing that we owe to the next generation, right now there is no monk seals in Spain. Any children who notice the ecosystem of Spain, they know that there is no monk seals in Spain, but there was. So our baselines have shifted. In Sea of Marmara, in Bosphorus, in 1970s, there's so many monk seals. But once the Istanbul get crazy, grow up, and they all left. No fisherman younger than 40 years old remembers any monk seals in Bosphorus. But all the fishers older than 40 years old, they remember monk seals. So there is a shifting baseline. And I am so hopeful because I think we passed the difficult fight. The government is already supporting me that I can expand the protected areas in other parts of Turkey. And I'm going everywhere, every month to show this example. I have a very big project in Indonesia, started replicating the similar things in Indonesia because I lived there 10 years. I know all the, ecosystem, fishers, people, everybody. So we can replicate, we can increase that. But we need stubborn people, really dedicated people to chase the government. At the end of the day, the people in the government say, okay, get away, we accept that we are going to establish this. Because the industrial fishing lobby is doing this. They are going there every day. They have a representative in the government. Every day someone with a briefcase going there to defend the rights of trawlers and purseaners. No one is going to defend our wish just to protect the seas and oceans for the next generations, for ourselves. If we don't go like those guys, if they don't see us, they never mind. 3 times in a month, I go to Ankara to the government without any subject matter, just to say hello. How are you? We are doing great. Look at our sharks. Look at our monk seals. Then they started to remember you, and they're calling me, hey, can you send the shark picture to us? The minister is coming today. You have to make them aware of the fact that you are doing great things, and they can contribute to that. Makes them excited. So I have the, mobile phones of some of the ministers. Without asking any permissions, I'm sending sharks pictures, shark videos, seal videos, and they didn't reply at all. But once they see me somewhere, please keep sending them to us. They get really excited about it. So we need lobby power as an environmentalist, as a marine conservationist in the government too.
Crec que podrem passar ja a les preguntes, sí? No sé si hi ha preguntes. Ui, un munt. Et va bé, Zafer, començar amb les preguntes? Sí, comencem amb aquesta senyora.
Can I speak in English?
Sure.
Sí, clar.
Thanks so much. My question is, I would like to know if in these areas you have the recreational boats are allowed, because I'm asking this because here it's a big problem in our coast, because the pressure of tourism is very high here. I guess that in your bay it's not the same. The tourism is less, but I can imagine that there are people sailing or even with motorbikes or whatever. And I am asking this because right now the plan to protect the Cap de Creus is going on. And the biggest problem that there is now is from the lobby, from the recreational boating. And it's very serious because they want to anchor everywhere, they want to go everywhere, and I would like to know how do you manage this here, because it's almost impossible to avoid that. Even we are doing what you are saying, we are going to the government, we are insisting every week, every month, but this lobby is very powerful, really, and we cannot do anything. And thanks so much.
Thank you for that valuable question. Yeah, we have the same problem, not as in the scale of Spain, but there are still boats are coming. But the good thing is, we reached those boats one by one. They know all our rangers. They know what we have been doing. So we show them where to anchor, not to anchor, to protect, especially charter boats. So we are getting more awareness from those people. But one lucky and unlucky thing, in the middle of our MPA, there is a small island, the most visited island in Turkey. More than 250,000 people visit that tiny island. Do you know why? Because Mark Antonius and Cleopatra had a honeymoon there. But more than that, before Cleopatra arrives with her armada, Mark Antonius brought 60 barge loads of sand from Alexandria for Cleopatra to step the Egyptians sent first time when she's stepping in Anatolia. Romanticism is something else. But that beach is still there, is protected, and every year millions of people are coming to see this beach, the place, the ancient theater, ancient ruins on the island. It's a tiny island, but it is there. So many boats are coming to see. And the seagrass meadows right in front of the island just disappeared. I have pictures from since 1990s, aerial pictures. Now it's just sand. It used to be a seagrass. So this is inevitable, but this is not a kind of consequence. We can prevent that. Putting number of buoys, understanding the carrying capacity of the area. How many boats this MPA at any given time could, handle in the summertime. So if it is more than that, we can easily keep that boats away. Their technology is more than enough to do that. But we need, determined governments to step on this. That's the problem, to convince the government, okay, we need to do this today, not tomorrow. That's the same problem I have with the boats in Turkey. Especially in another MPA, it's so famous for boating, more than 3,000 boats in the summertime. They're all mega yachts. Abramovich only has 8 yachts. The smallest one is 129 meters. They're all there. All the Russian oligarchs after the Ukraine war, they're all there. And there's so many boats. The smallest one is 35 meters. I'm not talking about the sailing yachts. These are all mega yachts. It's like, crazy. And there is no regulation. They can anchor everywhere. And there is no, seagrass depth. More than that, when they lift up their chain and anchor, the turbidity they created stays there whole summer, right? So all the other marine life, like sponges, other things, they're also dying too. So this is the one thing that we have to find a solution. Spain has more disadvantages because there's so many boats. But we need to figure out the carrying capacity of every single area. Or we will, it's so easy. You can give the odds and even numbers to the boats. You can only go in the odds days, even days. We can keep the carrying capacity, in the level.
Teníem més preguntes per aquí? Sí, gràcies.
Hello, thank you. Thank you for the conference. We have 2 different questions for you. Firstly, earlier you mentioned how the migration crisis completely overshadowed the fight for ecosystem protection.
Say again?
Yeah, earlier you mentioned how the migration impact in the ecosystem protection. So, considering they both are very important to the Mediterranean Sea, do you think it's possible to work on it together or separately? Like, if we can work both sides, migration and climate protection and ecosystem protection at the same time? This is the first question. And the second question is, there is also the issue that protected areas are isolated. It's not a common goal in the Mediterranean to protect all the areas, down, supported by an international organization that protects and cares about this topic. So if you think it is possible to create this structure, that's all. Thank you.
Yeah. So invasive species migration, there is no way to stop it. And 5 years ago, Suez Canal was extended and deepened. And Red Sea is 17 centimeters higher than Mediterranean, so there's a natural flow. So species are coming. It's a matter of time what other impactful species will end up. Because when I saw first lionfish in 2015, it was only this size. And now they're everywhere, they're in millions. So you don't know which species behave and having a huge impact. As I show you on the analysis, protected areas has less invasive species than not protected ones. So that's why if we increase the protected areas, but not small ones. They should be at least 6-7 square kilometers. Because in Mediterranean there are so many tiny itsy-bitsy protected areas, they don't count. It should be big enough. And the only way you cannot, there's no money, you cannot go and fish and just dump them. There's no luxury like this, but we can eat them. And there is a big, in EU only, 90% of the fish is coming from the other places. We don't have enough fish here. So that's why invasive species could be a great substitute for the fishes that we have lost in Mediterranean. We can still, import fish. There's no way. But at least we can, consume more invasive species. As I mentioned, Mediterranean is turning into a tropical sea. Maybe in 2050, maybe in 2060, it's going to be more tropical. And more species will come here, depending on how fast our waters will warm up and stays in the winter like that. So the isolated, protected areas, actually, on the paper, 8% of Mediterranean is protected. But the target is 30% by 2030. Only 6 years left, right? I remember 2012, there was a big forum in Turkey. And all the MPA managers, government officials, ministers, they were there. And we were discussing the protected areas of Mediterranean was that time 6%. And we said that, oh, no worries, we have still a lot of time. We will, declare many more protected areas. But even at that time, fully protected areas is just 0.03. Now it's 0.04. In just, 12 years, we have not done much. So I'm not expecting 30% anything like this is just, dream scenarios. Within the existing 8%, not adding anything else, just within the existing 8%, if we close 2% of this 8% for all kinds of fishing, that's going to be a great achievement. We will see. In 6 years, nothing will change.
When we were talking about the first question, that was about migration.
Of people.
Of people.
Yes. Yeah.
So not the species.
Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah. I was about to come to that point too. So the people migrations, technically, there are checkpoints along Turkish coastline that the refugees cannot enter. Refugees cannot enter the city of Muğla, where our MPAs exists, or other places closer to the, Greek islands. So there are checkpoints for refugees. But of course, many of them, thousands of them just, somehow getting to the coast and every day going, because there's a big monies are going there. For every trip, you have to pay 7,000 euros per person. When you ended up on Greek islands, they were beaten by they were not beaten by Greek, but they were beaten by Arab-speaking people hired by Greeks. They were beaten, their monies are taken away, and they just carry them and back to the Turkish waters. They drop them into the sea, and Turkish Coast Guard is going and collecting them, bringing back. There is a big tragedy is going on right now in, the refugee case. Not the refugee case, but there was a big earthquake happened last year in Turkey. The numbers of people killed more than 500,000. And all the survivors moved to the west. And many of them came to the RMPA temporarily. Some of them stayed, some of them went back. So the number of people coming means you need more resources. You need more fresh water, first of all. And you have to treat that fresh water when you are sending back. These are all great infrastructural problems. Forget about everything else. More than 400 million people coming to Mediterranean, mainly Barcelona, in the summertime. In the wintertime, we don't have these 400 million people. In the summertime, they're coming. 400 million people we have to welcome with fresh water, with treatment, with seafood, with all other kinds of things. And we are talking about sustainability. Come on, there is no sustainability in tourism. If you do not set up a number, sacrificing your income, there is no sustainability. And in 2050, this number is expected to be more than 500 million. Can you imagine 500 million people every summer will come to Mediterranean? Where will be the, how many accommodations additionally we will put it on? You have the same problem, we have the same problem in Turkey. In the summertime, in many cities, there are more Russians than Turks. And all the signs are Russian. And this disturbs the local people. And now, normal people like us, you cannot find place to rent. You have to pay more for food. All other infrastructure is getting more expensive. So where is the sustainability in tourism then? I believe, as a conservationist, there is none. How many more can we handle, do you think? So forget about migration. This is the migration. This is worse than the refugees. Refugees is in one way or another they are escaping to somewhere. They are not staying there. They all their mind is just going somewhere in EU somehow, right? But we have so many tragedy stories I don't want to share here. There's a big tragedies are going on there.
Crec que ens queda temps per una pregunta, però please, very brief. Una més? Una pregunta. Tenies tu una pregunta? Has aixecat la mà, però si la pot contestar molt breument, sisplau. Very shortly, answer, please, because we don't have many time.
I was just wondering, because you were telling us about this great initiative that sounds good in many senses, environmentally, economically, for the local population, in social aspects as well. Why don't we see more initiatives like this, and why don't we see more protected areas working well in other places in the Mediterranean? Is it only because of the lobbying of overfishing industry, do you believe, or do you think there are other challenges we can also be tackling in order to expand this model of protection elsewhere?
Thank you. That's a great question. Because we are not that stubborn, right? We just left the future of the world, oceans, to greedy hands of fishers, whether industrial or small scale. Small scale fishers are also doing overfishing too. They are not innocent. So there should be a kind of decision making, convincing the whole rule makers that this is the solution, and we are already too late to do this. We have good examples. Why not we replicating that? Right now in Turkey, I am replicating it in other areas. And there is a big defensive is coming. But since I know the results will be great for the people living there, right now I am totally using a different approach. In Gökova, I used bottom-up approach, convince every single fisher that this is going to be great, but now I don't have that much time. Now I am going to the government, look, this example is great, we should replicate this here, here, here. They say yes, and we are establishing new areas without too much getting involved with the community. But I know that at the end they will benefit it. But I don't have time, again, convincing every single people in the community. But what I noticed, tourism has an amazing leverage. Because we started working with TUI Care Foundation. So TUI is one of the biggest tour operators in Mediterranean. So they're bringing a lot of people. And sustainability, conservation, right now in their top agenda. And tourism has a big power in every country, especially in Spain, like in Turkey. So when the tourism industry is behind you, okay, we want these areas protected, otherwise, we don't have quality services for people, they don't want to come again. So this is a big leverage. We just noticed that leverage is coming. So right now, with TUI Care Foundation, hopefully in the next 2 years, we will establish new protected areas in Turkey. Because government cannot close their ears to the tourism industry. They have bigger, power than fishing fleets, local community, and everything else. So that's why maybe we start using tourism industry supporting new protected areas, because they are the one who are going to benefit for that. But we need, of course, more people, dedicated people, just to do this, because we have now good examples. There are beautiful examples all around the world.
Moltes gràcies, Zafer
I
Kızılkaya.
thank you.
Està realment molt interessant, que se m'oblidava fer-te preguntes i tot, seguint el teu relat. Gràcies per haver-nos escoltat, per haver estat aquí amb nosaltres, per les preguntes que heu fet, que segur que ens n'han faltat moltes, i em toca convidar-vos a la següent, aquesta següent sèrie de diàlegs, que serà el proper dia 20, i que jo crec que és molt interessant i a més també obre molts reptes. És també aquí al Palau Macaya i comptarà amb la participació de 2 dels directors de l'ONG Ecopeace Middle East, una organització única que reuneix ecologistes jordans, palestins i israelians per impulsar tant desenvolupament regional sostenible com creació de condicions necessàries per una pau duradora a la regió. Aquesta iniciativa va estar nominada al Premi Nobel de la Pau aquest mateix any 2024, així que us esperem aquí el proper dia 20, que segur que també donarà moltes perles com les que en Zafer ens ha ofert avui, molta sabidoria i també molta esperança, que era una mica el que buscàvem a l'inici d'aquesta conversa, d'aquest diàleg. Moltes gràcies a tots.